Okay, so I'm over here in 1.8 and I'm doing this ready, set, go number 3. And it's a word problem. It's a really good problem to do, study for your test. So it says, Jose is studying the growth of the economy, and he believes that the rate of growth will be 2% for the next several years. It has a current value of $22 trillion. How many years will it take to double the value? Okay. And the original question that they asked all the way up here, it says, for each representation in problems 2 and 3, select all items that connect to it. Select all the items that connect to it. So what they're talking about, which items connect to it, they're asking you these ones here, which ones connect to it here, to this context. So I'm just gonna, oh, it's perfect. So I'm gonna look for Jose is studying the growth of the economy, and he believes there's gonna be a rate of growth. So that's my first clue, is growth. So if I look at my graph, the graph should be going up from left to right, not down. So it's definitely not gonna be that D. Definitely not D. So I'm going to cross that out. That doesn't make sense to me at all. Okay. I think it might be this E. Okay. I think it might be this E. And if I look at this 22 trillion, that looks like it's about 20 something. So 22 trillion, 22, that may be it. Okay. So then it has nothing to do with Alex. So I already know it's not going to be B. This to you should definitely look like something, and this should also look like something, but this is 24, 25, 27. So I'm not sure. It could be any of these ones, and I just want to make sure. This one to me doesn't make sense because I don't have a 10. I don't have a 10 kind of concept anywhere in my problem. So this one to me also doesn't make sense. So the next thing I want to do is I want to write my function according to this. Now, if you remember, this is going to be a geometric sequence. Several clues tell me that this is geometric. Number 1, it's 2%. That 2% is a multiplier. It's not an adder. Whenever you have percentages, you're always gonna multiply things. I can't really think of contexts where you're adding a percentage plus a percentage. I can't think of that context. So for the most part, your percentages are going to be multipliers. So that tells me this is going to be a geometric sequence or a geometric kind of function. Okay. So it says if the current value is 22 trillion, so that's going to be our f of 1. So if I was going to write our function, it would look something like f of 1 equals to 22, right? And I'm going to keep off the trillion because I don't need to keep track of all those zeros. And then I'm also going to look at how many years will it take to double the value. And when I'm doing this right here, I'm looking for my multiplier, which in this case, it's going to be 2%, which in this case, it's going to be my 2%. So if you remember, one of the things that we did wrong on our quiz that a lot of you did was you put you put 0.02 right here as my multiplier. But if you took that to a table, right? Like if I drew a little table and I started off with 1 and I had 22 trillion, I'm not going to, again, not keeping track of all those zeros. And then I multiplied it by 0.02. We had this conversation in class, right? So if I had $22 trillion in the bank, right? And I don't actually, in case you were all wondering, and I multiply that by 0.02 because that's how you write 2% as a number. It's 2 hundredths, which makes sense, right? And I hit enter. Now I had $22 trillion, and then it says this. I don't have $1 trillion anymore. In fact, I don't even have half of $1 trillion. If your bank account, now change this to, I don't know, dollars, just so that it makes a little bit more sense. Let's say you put $22 in the bank and that's all you had in there. And then you waited, I don't know, a year, And then you went it back in there and you saw 44 cents. This is how you say 44 cents. You saw 44 cents. What would you say? Like, oh, bank, thank you for taking all my money. No, you'd be like, what the heck? What happened? Where did all my money go? Bank, hey, bank, tell me where my money went. Because I put it in there and you said that it was going to grow over 2%. And now I only have 44 cents in there. So I don't think this is right. So if you remember our conversation, one of the things that we said is we forgot to put the whole in there. So it should have been 1.02, not just 0.02. Now let's do this again and see if we get what we want. 0.02, and we hit enter. So you put $22 in there and now you have $22.44. Now you understand where that 44 cents came from. This was actually just the interest on it. This was the growth kind of thing. So the next year was what I'm trying to get to. It would look like this, right? Remember, Ms. Johnson's favorite thing is to do a table. And then next year, again, multiplying by 1.02 would look like that, 22.88, and so on. Okay, so now if you look here, we're going to be multiplying by 1.02. And if you're wondering what my exponent is, it's going to be n minus 1, because this guy right here is equal to 22 times 1.02. This guy here is going to be 22 times 1.02 times 1.02. And then when we compare our x with how many our exponent needs, it's off by 1. So that's why I subtracted 1 here. Okay. So then if I take this and I compare this to my table up here, I don't know about that 5 yet. So maybe, but this one is definitely true. This one is definitely true. So I'm going to circle that one. That is definitely true, right? This one also looks true. And if you have any doubts, you can go to my favorite, and you guys should all know what I'm going to pull up right now is Desmos. So I'm going to go to Desmos, my favorite, right? And I'm going to graph this equation and see if this is the function I get. So 22 parentheses 1.02 to the parentheses x minus 1. And so you're like, Ms. Johnson, it didn't graph for me. You have to zoom out a lot because it's at 22. So I'm going to, oh, there you are. I see you. Oh, and it does look very similar to that. So yeah, I'm going to actually choose this one too. And the last thing is, I don't know if this could be it. It could be, I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to just make a table of this. And I'm just going to pull this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to make a table. Oops, not that. I'm going to make a table. And then I'm just going to put the numbers 5, 6, 7, 8. And then instead of putting this y1, I'm going to put the function that we just wrote here. Okay. Except for when I do that, I don't know if you guys can see this. Can you see this? Yeah. See how it says this little hazard like, oh, you did something wrong. Well, it doesn't know what you're talking about because you're referencing X. So all you do to fix it is you want it to reference this column, which is called X1. So I'm just going to go right there and I'm going to put a 1, and that's what I get. Okay. So when I plug these in, I get 5 is 24.29. Not close. And then it's just a little bit off, but it might be because their numbers are a little bit off. Notice here it's off by 1. It's off by 1. And some of you also notice that, Ms. Johnson, this says T and ours says T minus 1. Well, that has to do with indexing, right? So I called this year 1 where they're calling it year 0. So I am actually going to choose these because the values look the same. Just like I chose this one, even though this said T and this one said T minus 1, because they're close enough and it's just indexed off by 1. Does that make sense? So I was pretending that it says current value. I thought, let me make that my 1. Does that make sense? Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. And if not, come ask me questions. Have a great day. Bye.